I know that you all know that my grandfather was one of the founders of the Couse Art Colony and the Couse Society of Artists. He came to Couse in 1902, but before that, of course, there were many years of study, including about 4 or 5 years in France. And one of the things that was very important about the study in France was the summer vacations. It was not just being at the Academy Julienne, where he studied in Paris, but summer vacations when everybody, whether you were a professional or a student, went out to the country to paint. The summer experiences are what Ernie and I set out to explore based on Granddad's sketches, his photographs, and written accounts from letters. We visited the Victoria and Albert Museum, where on an upper floor up here, we discovered bits of architecture that he had recorded. Following his sketches, we were able to recreate their journey. June 30th, 1982, one day less than 95 years after Couse and his friends made the same passage, Ernie and I boarded a ferry at Southampton, sailed down the estuary, across the Solent, and into Couse Harbor. As you can see from the map, the island is divided in half by the Medina River. We found a public footpath down through fields and brambles and eventually came to the picturesque town of Bristone, and there we located Bristone Church and found it unchanged. As Ernie maneuvered to take the photograph, he said, "Do you realize that in order to get the angle of the sketch, I must be standing on top of the exact grave where your grandfather stood 100 years ago?" We paused to absorb what that meant to reach out across the years in this way. Our trip to the Isle of Wight ended at Yarmouth, and like Couse, we took the ferry back to England, landing at Leamington. The generation gap of 95 years seemed but a thin line. Druid's Temple, as Couse called it, was a dolmen, the remains of a megalithic tomb. Such tombs dating from 4000 to 3000 BC are found all over Britain and France. They consist of several vertical upright stones supporting a large horizontal capstone. Originally, they would have been covered with dirt, but in most cases, the dirt has washed away over the centuries. In this sketch and photograph, you see the entrance into the structure. This aerial view shows the layout of Concarneau. This area was called the New Town. This is the old fortified medieval village, which was an island with a drawbridge. The entrance to the bay from the ocean is over here. Here's where the fishing boats come to leave the fish they've caught over here. The more conservative artists stayed in a larger hotel at the end of the street. We found that the direction to Quimperlé was marked in the street. That town was where the boys were headed on their way back to Concarneau. Quimperlé was of particular interest to us because we knew from both Couse and Henry sketches that they had made of some old timbered houses there. My grandparents' first summer as a married couple was spent at the village of Cernay-la-Ville, southwest of Paris. To get there, Ernie and I took the Paris subway to the end of the line and a taxi the rest of the way. Our driver could not understand why we wanted to go to Cernay, as there was another popular destination on the way that tourists usually visited. Here they are on the left with their son Kibby, who was born in Étampes on August 11th, 1894. On the right is a photo of Couse when they revisited Étampes in the summer of 1900. He is seated in front of the Café Eos, and Kibby 6 years old by then, is seen right over his knee in the background. There he is, a little scamp. Granddad took his photographs as an aid to memory for his paintings. Little did he know that he was creating an important historical legacy. So that ends the trips that we made and the summers following his summers in Europe.